Story 1. In the bustling city of Corinth, where the blue waves of the Corinthian Gulf meet the lush, green slopes of the surrounding hills, lived a young musician named Aeson. His life was woven with the chords of his simple wooden lyre, an instrument he cherished not only for its melodies but for the connection it gave him to his late father, a craftsman of musical instruments who had passed away when Aeson was but a boy. Aeson's music was his solace and his joy. He would play in the city's agora, amidst the chatter of merchants and the clang of metal from the blacksmiths, drawing crowds who found respite in his soothing tunes. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Aeson decided to take a different path home. Driven by a whispering breeze that seemed to call his name, he wandered away from the familiar cobbled streets of Corinth and toward a neglected grove of olive trees, ancient and twisted. Hidden among the gnarled trunks was a cave, its entrance cloaked with hanging moss. The wind seemed to hum with a mysterious melody, urging Aeson closer. Inside, the cave widened into a vast chamber, where the air was cool and filled with the scent of earth and time long past. At the center, atop a stone pedestal, lay a lyre unlike any Aeson had ever seen. It was crafted of gold and silver, with strings that shimmered in the faint light, casting lustrous reflections on the cave walls. As Aeson approached, a powerful sense of destiny overcame him. He reached out, his hands trembling, and the moment his fingers brushed against the strings, the air around him vibrated with a sublime harmony. The weather outside began to change. The gentle evening breeze turned into a gusty wind, and a light rain began to dance upon the cave's entrance. The lyre, he soon realized, was no ordinary instrument. It was the lost lyre of Apollo, said to be so powerful that it could control the elements and sway the hearts of those who listened. Legends spoke of this lyre, lost in the sands of time, and now, by fate or fortune, it had appeared to Aeson. As he played the lyre, visions filled his mind, images of the god Apollo, who appeared before him in a radiant glow of light. Apollo, with his eyes as bright as the sun, spoke in a voice that resonated like music itself. Aeson of Corinth, he declared, you have found what many have sought and failed to retrieve. The lyre of Apollo has chosen you, but you must prove your worthiness through a series of trials. Succeed, and you may keep the lyre. With my blessing fail, and you shall never find solace in music again. Apollo's image faded as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Aeson alone with the echoing promise of the trials ahead. The first trial, Apollo had whispered, would be a challenge of bravery and resolve. Aeson must venture to the temple of Poseidon, nestled on the cliff overlooking the sea, and play a melody that could calm the raging storm summoned by the sea god himself. Determined to prove his worth and spurred by the mystical allure of the lyre, Aeson set out at dawn. His journey took him across rugged landscapes, through small villages where he played his lyre, earning the adoration and assistance of the people with its enchanted music. Each note he played seemed to align with the natural order, bringing harmony wherever discord reigned. After days of travel, Aeson arrived at the windswept cliffs where the temple of Poseidon stood majestic and imposing. The sea below roared, waves crashing against the rocks with relentless fury. As the storm brewed overhead, Aeson took a deep breath, holding the lyre close. With a steady hand, he began to play a melody he barely understood, one that seemed to be whispered to him by the winds themselves. As the notes of the lyre pierced the tumult of the storm, the clouds began to part, and the sea's rage subsided. Poseidon, mighty and awe-inspiring, emerged from the depths, his trident gleaming with the power of the ocean. "Well played, young musician," Poseidon boomed, his voice echoing over the now calm waters. "You have passed the first trial with courage and skill. But prepare yourself, for the trials to come will test you even more deeply." With the god's blessing, Aeson left the temple, the lyre of Apollo secure in his grasp and his heart alight with purpose. His next trial awaited in the mountains of Arcadia, where he would face the wiles of Artemis, goddess of the hunt, in a game that would demand not just courage but cunning. In the verdant, wild heartlands of Arcadia, where the mountains rose steep and the forests ran deep, Aeson ventured forth with the lyre of Apollo slung across his back. The landscape was a stark contrast to the sunlit shores of Corinth here. The air was crisp, laced with the scent of pine, and the sounds of wildlife echoed mysteriously through the trees. Artemis's trial, Aeson knew, would not be a confrontation of strength but a test of wit and awareness. Artemis, the huntress goddess, revered for her archery skills and connection to nature, would challenge Aeson in a domain where she reigned supreme. Upon reaching a clearing, encircled by towering oaks and whispering winds, Aeson encountered the goddess. Artemis appeared before him as a vision, a presence marked by the graceful deer that accompanied her, their eyes watchful and serene. Aeson of Corinth, Artemis addressed him with a voice that was both commanding and melodic. "To pass my trial, you must use my lyre to enchant the wildest creature in these woods, without causing harm or using force. Only then will you prove your mastery of harmony over dominance." Aeson nodded, understanding the gravity of his task. He walked deeper into the forest, his senses heightened. The woods were alive with the rustle of leaves, the scamper of squirrels, and the distant calls of birds. After hours of searching, he came upon a creature he had only heard of in the legends told by his elders, a great boar, notorious throughout Arcadia for its ferocity and untamed nature. The boar snorted and pawed at the ground, its tusks gleaming menacingly under the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. Aeson felt a tremor of fear, but he steadied himself, remembering the power of the lyre. Carefully, with a respect for the creature before him, Aeson began to play. The music that flowed was a profound symphony of the forest's own whispers, a melody that spoke of gentle streams, rustling leaves, and the quiet footfalls on soft earth. The boar, initially bristling with aggression, began to soften. Its eyes, once wild with the fire of the untamed, mirrored a growing calm, a testament to the music's sway. As the last note lingered in the cool air, the boar bowed its great head before Aeson, an act of respect no hunter had ever witnessed. Aeson approached slowly, placing a hand upon the creature's massive shoulder, feeling the rough warmth of its bristles. The boar allowed this connection, then turned and ambled peacefully back into the depths of the forest. Artemis watched from afar, her silver bow lowered, a rare smile gracing her features. "You have succeeded, Aeson of Corinth," she called out as she approached him. "You have shown that true harmony requires understanding and respect, not subjugation. Proceed now to your final trial, where you will face Apollo himself at Delphi. There you must demonstrate the ultimate union of your spirit with the divine essence of music." With the goddess's blessing, Aeson left Arcadia, his heart filled with a new understanding of his art. The journey to Delphi was long, and his mind buzzed with anticipation and anxiety about the final trial that awaited him. Delphi was not just the center of the Greek world, but also the sanctuary of Apollo, where the oracle herself communed with gods. Upon arriving in Delphi, the air tinged with the scent of laurel and incense. Aeson felt the weight of history and destiny converge. Here, amidst the ancient temples and treasuries, adorned with countless offerings to the god of music and prophecy, Iason would face his ultimate challenge, one that would decide his fate and the future of Apollo's lost lyre. As Iason ascended the sacred path to the temple of Apollo in Delphi, the stone beneath his feet worn smooth by the passage of countless pilgrims, the atmosphere thickened with a palpable sense of power and mystery. The towering columns of the temple loomed ahead, etched against the backdrop of a crystalline sky, and the murmur of the ancient laurel trees seemed to whisper secrets long kept. The challenge at Delphi, Iason knew, would be unlike any he had faced. Here he must not only prove his mastery of the lyre, but also his ability to resonate with the divine essence of music, a feat that required a deep union of his soul with the cosmos. Upon entering the temple, Iason was greeted by the Pythia, the oracle of Apollo, seated on her tripod, her eyes closed in trance. The air was thick with the scent of burning bay leaves, and the flickering flames of oil lamps cast dancing shadows upon the stone walls. Iason of Corinth, the Pythia, spoke in a voice that echoed strangely, as if carried by a distant wind. "Apollo awaits your final performance. Play not for us, but for the universe." With the weight of Apollo's lyre in his hands, Iason stood before the altar, his heart beating a rhythm that seemed to sync with the very pulse of the earth. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to play. The music that emerged was transcendent, a melody that wove through the very fabric of reality, encompassing the whispers of the past and the echoes of the future. The sound enveloped the temple, spilling out over the mountainsides, reaching up to the heavens. The melody spoke of the human condition of joy and sorrow, hope and despair, and the unyielding search for meaning. It was a music that did not just replicate the beauty of the world, but enhanced it, reminding all who heard it of the beauty that lay in the unity and diversity of existence. As Iason played, the figure of Apollo materialized before him, not as an apparition this time, but as a tangible presence, radiant and powerful. The god listened, his expression reflective and intense. When the final note quivered into silence, the air remained charged with energy, as if the music continued beyond the reach of mortal ears. "Well played, Iason of Corinth," Apollo finally said, his voice resonant with the power of the lyre. "You have not only mastered my lyre, but have also touched the essence of the divine through your music. You are now its true keeper, tasked with bringing harmony and enlightenment to the world." Iason bowed deeply, overwhelmed by the honor and responsibility bestowed upon him. "I will serve with all my heart, my lord," he replied, the lyre cradled in his arms like the most precious of treasures. Apollo nodded, pleased. "Go forth, Iason. Let your music be a beacon in the darkness, a force for good in a world that yearns for beauty and understanding. Remember, the power of the lyre is not just in its strings, but in the spirit of he who plays it." With Apollo's blessing, Iason left Delphi forever changed. He traveled across Greece, playing his lyre, not just as a musician, but as a messenger of the gods. Wherever he went, the weather would calm, conflicts would ease, and hearts would open. His music became legendary, a testament to his journey and the trials he had overcome. And so the tale of Iason and the lyre of Apollo lived on, a story of a young man's quest to blend human creativity with divine inspiration, reminding all of the power of music to stir the soul and shape the world. Story 2. In the age when Athens was not yet the gleaming beacon of wisdom and culture it was destined to become, there lived a modest farmer named Eumaeus. His fields lay on the gentle slopes outside the city, where the soil was stubborn and the sun was harsh, but Eumaeus toiled from dawn until dusk, hopeful for each harvest. One particularly arid summer, when the earth cracked under the relentless sun and the crops wilted in despair, Eumaeus found himself walking the perimeter of his fields, his heart heavy with worry. It was during this walk, as the first stars began to twinkle in the twilight, that he encountered a woman of majestic presence, her eyes glimmering with an ethereal light. She introduced herself as Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, and Eumaeus, a pious man, fell to his knees in reverence. "Rise, Eumaeus of Athens," Athena spoke, her voice as clear as the wind through olive leaves. "I have watched your dedication to your land and your respect for the gods. I wish to grant you a gift that will not only secure your prosperity but will also benefit the entire city of Athens." From within the folds of her robe, Athena produced a single seed, unlike any Eumaeus had ever seen. It was as large as a pebble and shimmered with a silver glow. "This," Athena declared, "is the seed of the first olive tree. Plant it here in your field and care for it. It will grow to be a tree like no other, providing food, oil and wood. Protect it well, for others may covet its blessings." Eumaeus planted the seed as instructed, watering it with the last of his sparingly saved rainwater. To his astonishment, the seed sprouted overnight, growing rapidly into a sapling with a resilience that defied the arid environment. The leaves shimmered with a silvery green, and soon it bore fruit plump and rich with oil. Word of this miraculous tree spread rapidly, and with it the eyes of jealousy turned towards Eumaeus's humble farm. Rival farmers and greedy merchants sought to steal the olives, or worse, uproot the tree itself. Eumaeus stood vigilant, guarding his divine gift day and night, relying on his wits and strength to fend off those who would do harm to Athena's gift. As the tree grew, so did the prosperity of Eumaeus's farm. His olives were sought after for their unique quality, and the oil pressed from them was richer and purer than any other. However, the threats to his precious tree were relentless. One moonless night, as Eumaeus patrolled his fields, Athena appeared to him again. "You have done well to protect what I have entrusted to you," she said, observing the robust branches of the olive tree. "But true protection comes not from strength alone. You must teach others its value, not as a commodity but as a sacred boon." Heeding Athena's advice, Eumaeus began to change his approach. He invited his neighbors to see the tree, explained its benefits, and shared the fruits of his harvest. In return, he asked only that they help guard the tree and learn to cultivate their own. This act of sharing knowledge transformed his neighbors from rivals into allies, and soon other olive trees began to dot the landscape around Athens. However, the challenges were far from over. A severe storm struck Athens, the likes of which had not been seen in generations. Thunder roared like the chariots of the gods, and fierce winds threatened to tear the olive tree from its roots. Eumaeus, his family, and his neighbors rallied, shielding the tree with their bodies and praying for Athena's protection. When dawn broke, the storm had passed and the olive tree still stood, its branches a testament to the resilience instilled by the goddess. The community's efforts had saved the tree, reinforcing the bonds among them and their collective reverence for the gift Athena had bestowed. Years passed, and the olive tree of Athens became known across Greece, a symbol of the city's enduring spirit and prosperity. Eumaeus grew old, but his legacy was rooted deep in the soil of Athens, just like the tree that continued to flourish. From Athena, Eumaeus learned that wisdom was not just the preserve of scholars and warriors, It was also found in the hearts of those who nurture and protect life. And as Athens rose to its golden age, the olive tree remained at its heart, a symbol of peace and prosperity, nurtured by the wisdom of a humble farmer who had once met a goddess. Story 3. In the deep, untamed forests of Arcadia, where the trees stretched high into the heavens, and the whispers of the ancients could still be heard in the rustling leaves, there roamed a stag of such beauty and majesty that it seemed a creature not of earth but of the divine realms. Its coat shimmered like molten silver under the sun's caress, and its antlers arched toward the sky, intricate as the branches of an ancient oak. This was the silver stag, a creature under the protection of Artemis, goddess of the hunt and protector of all wild things. The people of nearby villages spoke of the stag in hushed tones, a mixture of reverence and desire. To see the silver stag was considered a blessing, a sign of Artemis's favor. Yet there was one among them, a young hunter named Lycos, whose heart was filled not with reverence, but with ambition. Lycos was skilled with the bow and proud, perhaps too proud. He viewed the silver stag not as a divine blessing, but as a trophy, the ultimate proof of his prowess. Lycos vowed to capture the stag. He spent days tracking the creature, learning its movements, the silent paths it tread through the forest, the clearings it favored under the moonlight. Despite his skill, every attempt to approach the stag ended in failure. It was as if the creature knew of his intentions and vanished like mist at his approach. One night, under the light of a full moon, Lycos managed to corner the stag by a sacred grove known to be favored by Artemis herself. The stag stood majestic and calm, its eyes meeting Lycos's with a depth of wisdom and sadness that shook the hunter to his core. As Lycos raised his bow, a sudden wind swept through the grove, and the figure of Artemis appeared, her presence commanding and fierce. Lycos Artemis spoke, her voice echoing like the call of the wild. "You dare to lay claim to what is mine, driven by hubris and a hunger for glory. The silver stag is under my protection, and you have sought to sever that which is meant to bind us to the beauty and sanctity of the natural world." Lycos, struck by fear and awe, fell to his knees, his bow clattering to the ground. "Forgive me, great Artemis," he pleaded. "I did not understand. I saw only the challenge, not the sacredness of your creature." Artemis regarded him with eyes as sharp as the points of her arrows. "To understand the value of life, you must see the world through the eyes of another. I will grant you a chance for redemption, but it will not be easy. You will undergo a transformation, and you will learn what it means to be the hunted, not the hunter." With a wave of her hand, Lycos felt his body change. His limbs stretched, his senses sharpened, and soon, where the man had knelt, a stag now stood. Lycos had become a creature like the one he had hunted, his silver coat catching the moonlight, his ears tuned to the softest rustling of the underbrush. For a year and a day, Lycos lived as the silver stag, roaming the forests of Arcadia, learning the language of the wind, the dance of the streams, the secrets of the shadows. He experienced the joy of the forest's freedom and the constant shadow of fear from those who hunted him. He saw the world through the eyes of the creature he had once sought to kill, and understood the sacred bond between all living things. When the year and a day had passed, Artemis appeared to Lycos once more. The hunter turned stag bowed before her, his heart changed. "Great Artemis," he said, his voice a strange echo of his former self, "thank you for the lessons you have bestowed upon me." Artemis nodded, a slight smile gracing her lips. With another wave of her hand, Lycos was returned to his human form, but he was no longer the man he had been. He was humbler, wiser, a protector of the woods he once claimed as his hunting grounds. Lycos spread the tale of the silver stag and his transformation, teaching those who would listen about the respect and reverence due to all creatures. As for the silver stag, it continued to roam the forests of Arcadia, a mystical guardian of the wilderness, protected by Artemis, revered by the people, a symbol of the beauty and fragility of the natural world. Story 4. In the verdant, shadow-dappled woods of ancient Greece, where whispers of the old gods lingered in the air like the scent of pine and wildflowers, there dwelt a nymph named Echo. Once she had been a loquacious spirit, her voice as vibrant and lively as the bubbling streams over which she presided. But a curse from the jealous Hera, who had grown tired of Echo's incessant chatter, especially when it served to distract her from Zeus's wanderings, had reduced her speech to mere repetition of the last words spoken to her. Now Echo wandered the forest, a spectral figure of sorrow, her interactions with others shadowed by her inability to speak freely. Her existence was a lonely one, her companionship limited to the echoes of her own borrowed voice, bouncing back from the rocky caverns and ancient trees. One fateful day, while meandering near the edge of her woodland realm, Echo stumbled upon a cave hidden behind a cascade of ivy and moss, unseen by mortal or divine eyes for aeons. An air of mystery enveloped this place, and a faint inscription above the cave entrance hinted at its ancient origins and purpose. The engraving read, "To those who enter and conquer silence, a voice true shall be returned." Intrigued and filled with a flicker of hope, Echo stepped into the cave, her footsteps echoing softly in the vast, dimly lit corridor. The cave, known to the few who had dared its depths as the Cave of Secrets, was rumored to be crafted by the gods as a test of wisdom and cunning. Inside, Echo found herself in a large chamber, the walls lined with torches casting dancing shadows. At the center of the room stood a pedestal with a scroll, upon which lay the first riddle. The scroll read, "I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I?" The words lingered in the air, waiting for an answer. Echo, grasping the mechanics of her curse, repeated the last part aloud, "What am I?" As soon as she spoke, a gentle gust whispered through the cave, mimicking the sound of her voice. Realizing the answer, Echo found herself near a smaller, adjacent scroll that appeared as if by magic. With her own voice, she repeated the last words she heard, her voice carrying through the cave, "I am an echo." The cave responded. The ground trembled slightly, and a passageway opened in the wall previously solid. Encouraged, Echo continued deeper into the labyrinthine cave, each chamber presenting a new riddle, each solution bringing her closer to restoring her own voice. The next riddle posed was, "I have cities but no houses. I have mountains but no trees. I have water but no fish. What am I once again?" Echo repeated the riddle aloud, and the answer came to her as she observed the map of a mythical land etched into the wall of the cave. She responded with her borrowed voice, "A map." With each correct answer, the cave seemed to acknowledge her wisdom, guiding her deeper into its heart. Finally, Echo reached the innermost sanctum of the Cave of Secrets, where a pool of crystal clear water awaited her under a dome of shimmering crystals. The final scroll was simple yet daunting: to regain what is lost, speak without speaking. Listen to your heart and the heart of the world. Echo pondered deeply, her reflection gazing back at her from the pool's surface. She realized that all her answers had come from truly listening to the world around her and to herself. She knelt by the pool, and instead of speaking, she touched her reflection. In that moment, the water rippled, and the cave echoed with the sounds of the world, the rustle of leaves, the rush of rivers, the calls of birds, and finally, her own voice, clear and true, speaking words of her own choosing. With tears of joy, Echo left the cave, her voice restored, a gift for her patience and insight. She returned to the world, her speech no longer an echo of others, but a song of her own, a song of gratitude and newfound wisdom. Echo's voice resonated through the woods, a testament to her journey and the power of listening, understanding, and silence. Story 5. In the golden halls of Olympus, where the gods convened and the threads of mortal destinies were woven, Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger of the gods, found himself drawn to an ancient, dusty scroll tucked away in the corner of Zeus's vast library. This was no ordinary scroll. Its edges were frayed with the wear of eons, and the parchment glowed faintly with celestial energy. Upon unfurling it, Hermes discovered it was a map, but unlike any he had seen or delivered among the realms of gods and men. The map depicted realms unbeknownst to even the most traveled of the gods, marked with cryptic symbols and names that whispered secrets of their own. Hermes, ever curious and relentless in his pursuit of knowledge, felt a stirring of excitement. This map could lead him to the origins of the universe itself, to corners of creation where perhaps even Zeus had not trod. With a mischievous grin, Hermes tucked the map into his tunic and set off without a word to his divine peers. His first destination was marked with the symbol of a spiraling galaxy, located in the realm known as the Ether, where the fabric of reality thinned, and the stars sang to each other across the void. As Hermes flew faster than thought, crossing the boundaries between realms, he arrived at a land that shimmered with starlight. The ground was like translucent glass, reflecting the cosmos above, and the air was filled with the harmonies of celestial bodies. Here he encountered the astrals, beings of pure energy and thought, who communicated through colors and vibrations. From them, Hermes learned of the Aether's role in holding the universe together, a tapestry threaded with the lines of power and light that the map traced. Eager to delve deeper into the mysteries, Hermes consulted the map once again and located the next realm, known as the Netherdeep, marked by an abyss on the parchment. This realm was a stark contrast to the Aether, a place of shadows and whispers, where light dimmed and the concept of time faltered. In this dark expanse, Hermes met the keepers of time, ancient entities that resembled the celestial clocks, their bodies winding and unwinding in endless cycles. They imparted to Hermes the secret of time's creation, how it was both a prison and a liberation for beings bound by physical forms. With each realm visited and each secret unveiled, Hermes grew in understanding, his eyes alight with the thrill of discovery. However, the map still held one final mark, an enigmatic realm simply named the Origin. This was what Hermes sought most, the birthplace of all existence. Traveling beyond the echoes of the cosmos, where stars were scarce and the chill of the void gnawed at the edges of his divine essence, Hermes reached the Origin. It was a realm devoid of features, a blank slate enveloping a singular point of pulsating light. As he approached, the light expanded, enveloping him, transcending sight, sound, and touch. In this moment of sublime contact, Hermes witnessed the universe's birth, a symphony of chaos and order, a dance of elements clashing and fusing, driven by divine will and chance. He saw the threads of potential that spun the galaxies, the love and strife that crafted worlds, and the whisper of fate that guided life. Armed with this profound knowledge, Hermes returned to Olympus, the map safely tucked away. His journey had changed him. He was no longer just the messenger, but also a keeper of secrets, a witness to the primordial workings of the cosmos. In the end, Hermes shared his findings with the other gods, regaling them with tales of realms unseen and truths untold. The map of hidden realms remained in his care, a reminder of the universe's vast mysteries and Hermes' eternal quest for knowledge. Story 6. In the deep, shadowed bowels of the underworld, where the light of the sun never dared to venture, Hades, the somber and often misunderstood god of the dead, presided with a fairness that belied his fearsome reputation. His kingdom was a vast expanse of darkness and melancholy, filled with the whispers of souls and the quiet flow of the river Styx. Yet, despite his sovereignty over this eternal realm, Hades harbored a secret curiosity, a longing to understand the mortal world above, from which all his subjects came but could never return. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon of the living world, casting long shadows that melded with the darkness of the night, a peculiar idea took root in Hades' mind. With the approach of the annual Festival of Light, a celebration where mortals honored the sun's power to renew and sustain life, Hades found himself wondering what it would be like to walk among them, not as a god, but as a man of flesh and blood. This desire was so potent, so out of character for the stoic god, that it consumed his thoughts. Determined to satisfy his curiosity, Hades approached his brother Zeus, the king of the gods, whose command over the heavens included the golden chariot of the sun. "Brother," Hades began, his voice as deep and resonant as the caverns of his dark domain, "I seek a boon. Grant me but one day in the mortal world to walk under the sun as one of them. In return, I offer a truce between our realms during my absence, a day when no soul shall pass from life to death." Zeus, intrigued and amused by Hades' unusual request, agreed. "It shall be so," he declared, "but beware, dear brother, for the world of mortals is as fickle and fleeting as the clouds that pass across my skies." Thus, under the guise of a simple traveler, Hades emerged from the depths of the underworld at the first light of dawn. The sun, a magnificent orb of radiant gold, warmed his pale skin, a sensation he had never known. As he wandered through a bustling marketplace, the sights and sounds overwhelmed him, children laughing as they played, merchants loudly advertising their wares, lovers exchanging tender glances. Each mundane moment was a novel spectacle to him, each human emotion a mysterious riddle to unravel. As the day progressed, Hades experienced the simple joys of life. He tasted the sweet juice of an orange. Feeling it dribble down his chin, he smelled the intoxicating perfume of blooming flowers. He listened to a blind bard sing tales of love and loss. With each new experience, his understanding of human life deepened, and a profound empathy began to take root in his heart. Yet, as is the nature of mortal life, not all was joy. Hades witnessed the sorrows of the human condition as well, the poverty of an old beggar, the grief of a mother mourning her lost child, the pain of a young man wounded in a senseless brawl. These sights stirred a new kind of agony in his chest, an ache for the suffering of others, a sensation foreign to a god. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with strokes of crimson and purple, Hades found himself at the outskirts of the city, by a tranquil river that reminded him of Styx, though this river sang a song of life, not death. There, an elderly man sat alone, his eyes reflecting the sunset, filled with a sorrow that seemed to mirror Hades' own new understanding. Approaching the man, Hades asked, "Why do you mourn amidst such beauty?" The elder looked up, his gaze piercing the guise of mortality Hades wore. For loss, the man replied simply, "For the relentless passage of time which takes all we love." Hades sat beside him, and together they watched the day fade. In the twilight, Hades realized the dual gift of mortal life, the exquisite pain of fleeting beauty, and the poignant sweetness of ephemeral joys. When the first star appeared in the evening sky, signaling his return to the underworld, Hades stood, a changed god. With a heart now knowledgeable of both the joys and sorrows of human life, Hades descended back into his realm, carrying with him not just the souls of the departed but a compassionate understanding of their lives above. This knowledge, born of a single day in the sun, forever altered the way he ruled his shadowed kingdom, tempered now, not just with fairness, but with a mercy that only true empathy can bestow. As Hades returned to the underworld, the souls greeted him with a silence that seemed to stretch through the dark corridors and misty plains. The king of the dead moved with a new demeanor, his steps more measured, his gaze less distant. The empathy he had gleaned from his day above among mortals infused his actions, softening the stern lines that had once marked his face. In the days that followed, Hades began to implement subtle changes within his realm. He first visited the fields of Asphodel, where countless indistinct souls roamed listlessly, caught in a grey limbo between punishment and paradise. Observing their endless wandering, Hades felt a stirring of sorrow for these lost spirits, who had neither been evil enough for Tartarus nor virtuous enough for Elysium. Inspired by the human customs he had witnessed, Hades introduced the Festival of Remembrance in the underworld, a day where souls could relive their fondest memories from their mortal lives. On this day, the asphodel blossoms glowed with a gentle light, and the air was filled with the sounds and scents of the mortal world. It was a chance for solace and reflection, a respite from eternal monotony, and it was met with a joy that had not been felt in the shadowy depths for eons. Meanwhile, Hades sought to better understand the individual tales of his subjects. He established the Hall of Echoes, a place where souls could share their life stories, their regrets, and their unfulfilled dreams. Hades himself would often walk among them, listening and learning, his presence no longer feared but welcomed as a solemn, understanding figure. As Hades' compassion grew, so too did his interest in the fates of those who dwelled in the darker recesses of his domain. He ventured into Tartarus, where the cries of the damned echoed off the iron walls. Here he found the Titans, ancient enemies of the Olympian gods, including Prometheus, who had been bound for gifting fire to humanity, a gift that had deeply impressed Hades during his time in the mortal realm. Approaching Prometheus, Hades felt a kinship with the Titan, whose only crime had been an excess of sympathy for mankind. Prometheus, Hades spoke, his voice echoing in the dank abyss. "Your gift brought knowledge and relief to mortals. It is time your compassion is repaid." With a gesture, Hades unbound the chains that had held Prometheus captive for centuries. This act of mercy rippled through the cosmos, alerting Zeus and the other gods to the changes Hades was enacting. Concerned yet intrigued by this newfound benevolence in his brother, Zeus summoned Hades to Mount Olympus to explain his actions. Standing before the pantheon, Hades spoke not with the cold austerity of the Lord of the Dead, but with the passionate conviction of one who had walked among life and understood its precious fragility. For brothers and sisters, he began in our immortality. We are detached from the very essences that make life worth cherishing: struggle, love, pain, and the fleeting beauty of existence. I have merely brought a semblance of this understanding to our realm below, that we might rule not just as gods of power, but as gods of wisdom. Moved by his words, the gods agreed to a new era of cooperation between the heavens and the underworld, linking the realms not just by duty and fate, but by empathy and understanding. They decreed that once a year, when the veil between the living and the dead thinned, the gods would walk among mortals to learn from them, just as Hades had. Thus, from the depths of the underworld to the heights of Olympus, Hades' single day in the sun wove a new tapestry of connection between the realms of gods and men, reshaping their destinies in ways none had foreseen. His rule, once marked by solitude and severity, now thrived on compassion and wisdom, a testament to the profound impact of experiencing life itself. Story 7. Meph. Persephone, the queen of the underworld and the goddess of spring, descended once more through the shadowy portals that marked the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead. Each step she took away from the bright sunlit world above seemed to echo in her heart, a reminder of the vibrant life she was leaving behind. Yet there was also a sense of resolve in her stride, for she bore with her a mission to bring life and renewal even to the dark, desolate expanses of Hades' kingdom. As she entered the underworld, the air, thick with the weight of eternity and silence, shifted subtly, infused with the potential of change. Hades, observing her arrival with a mix of admiration and curiosity, welcomed her not just as his queen, but as the harbinger of change in his immutable realm. Persephone, with a smile that held both the warmth of the sun and the solemnity of her royal duties, addressed her somber husband. This year, she declared, we shall see a new kind of spring here in the underworld. We shall have a garden that bears witness to the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a place where even the most forlorn soul can find solace and a reminder of the life that once was. Intrigued, Hades agreed to provide her with whatever she needed, curious to see the transformation that would unfold. Thus Persephone began her work, her hands, though delicate and accustomed to the tender blooms of her spring gardens above, now toiled against the stony and infertile soils of the underworld. She started by invoking the powers of Demeter, her mother, asking for blessings of fertility to grace the barren underworld fields. Seeds from the upper world were carefully planted pomegranates, which held the secret of her own fate, asphodel, a reminder of the fields where the unremarkable souls wandered, and narcissus, the very emblem of death and rebirth. As the days turned to months, Persephone's garden began to take shape. The once lifeless earth sprouted with green shoots, breaking through the hard, cold ground with the persistence of life itself. The garden expanded, filled with a variety of plants, each representing a different aspect of life and nature. The dark corners of the underworld lit up with iridescent flowers and lush greenery, painting the gloom with hues of hope and renewal. Each season brought its own lesson and beauty. Spring was vibrant and bustling with new growth. Summer brought full blooms and a canopy of green leaves that provided shade to wandering souls. Autumn was a tapestry of colors, with reds, oranges, and yellows marking the maturation of life. And even in winter, when the plants withered and died, they did so with a promise of rebirth, mirroring the cycles of the upper world and teaching the souls about the inevitability and necessity of endings as precursors to new beginnings. Throughout the year, Persephone walked among the souls, her presence a comforting reminder of the life they once knew. She listened to their stories, shared in their memories, and in turn taught them about the cycles of nature, how each ending led to a new beginning, and how death in the underworld was just another form of life, albeit different from what they had known. Hades watched as his kingdom transformed under Persephone's gentle care. Where there had once been resignation and despair, now there was a sense of peace and acceptance. The dark god found himself wandering through the garden, drawn to its beauty and to the laughter of his queen, who had brought light to his shadowed realm. The garden became a sanctuary, not only for the souls of the dead, but also for Hades himself, who began to see his domain not as a place of punishment or sorrow, but as a necessary part of the greater cycle of existence. His love for Persephone deepened, seeing how her touch brought balance between life and death, making the underworld a part of the natural order of things, rather than a deviation. As the year came to a close, and it was time for Persephone to return to the world above, both she and Hades knew that the garden would continue to flourish. It stood as a testament to their joint rule, harmonious, balancing the scales of life and death, and showing that even in the darkest places, growth and beauty can thrive. Thus the garden in the underworld was not just a place of physical beauty, but a symbol of life's resilience and the eternal cycle of renewal that governs all existence, from the highest peaks of Olympus to the deepest shadows of the underworld. Story 8. In the bustling city of Athens, where the whispers of the gods seemed to mingle with the chatter of the marketplace, a young and cunning thief named Lycos lived amongst the shadows of society. Known for his quick hands and quicker wits, Lycos thrived on the thrill of his escapades, yet always longed for a challenge worthy of his talents. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the city in a golden hue, a rumor reached Lycos's ears that would set him on an unforgettable path. It was said that Hermes, the messenger god known for his swiftness and guile, was visiting a nearby temple, and with him his famed golden sandals, gifts from Zeus himself, capable of granting the power of flight. Intrigued and enticed by the prospect of possessing such power, Lycos devised a plan. Under the cover of night he crept into the temple, moving silently past the slumbering priests, and reaching the inner sanctum where the sandals were said to be kept. There, gleaming under the light of the moon, lay the golden sandals, almost calling out to him. With a heartbeat as swift as Hermes' own cadence, Lycos snatched the sandals and swiftly departed, leaving behind only the echo of his departure. As he donned the sandals, an exhilarating surge of power coursed through him. With a mere thought, he was aloft, soaring above the rooftops of Athens, laughing with the giddy joy of newfound freedom. Over the following days, Lycos indulged in his mischief like never before. He flew from city to city, unseen by most, a ghostly figure flitting across the Greek skies. His thefts became more audacious, his pranks more daring. From the rich merchants of Corinth to the bustling markets of Sparta, none were safe from the flying thief. Stories and rumors spread across the land about a mischievous spirit disrupting the daily order, a tale that reached the ears of gods and mortals alike. However, with great power came a reckless arrogance. Lycos began to relish the chaos he wrought, forgetting the humble roots from which he had come, and ignoring the growing consequences of his actions. Farms were left in disarray, sacred offerings in temples were tampered with, and the common folk suffered from his relentless antics. It was not long before Hermes, noticing the absence of his sandals, grew wrathful and set out to reclaim what was his. The god did not have to search long, for the trail of chaos was easy to follow. With divine swiftness, Hermes confronted Lycos as he reveled in his flight above the Aegean Sea. "Mortal, you have dared to steal from a god," Hermes thundered, his voice echoing across the sky and sea. "Did you think you could wield power without responsibility, without consequence?" Faced with the divine presence of Hermes, Lycos felt a fear he had never known. The thrill of flight vanished, replaced by the gravity of his hubris. With a trembling voice, he begged for mercy, promising to right the wrongs he had committed. Hermes, seeing the genuine remorse in the young thief's eyes, decided upon a punishment that would both teach and redeem. "You shall return to Athens and undo the chaos you have caused, but you shall do so as a mortal, on foot. You will learn the weight of your actions by feeling the earth beneath your feet, understanding the lives you have disrupted." Stripped of his ability to fly, Lycos returned the golden sandals to Hermes and began his long journey of redemption. It was a journey that would take him across Greece, mending the damage he had caused, offering apologies where mischief had once ruled. Along the way, Lycos learned about the lives of those he had affected, gained insights into the hardship and hopes of the common folk, and slowly transformed from a reckless thief into a guardian of sorts, watching over those he had once wronged. Years passed, and the tales of the flying thief faded into legend, but in their place grew stories of a humble hero who helped where he once harmed. Hermes, observing this transformation from afar, nodded in approval, knowing that the young mortal had finally understood the true nature of power and responsibility. Thus Lycos's life, once marked by the fleeting thrill of theft and flight, became a testament to growth and redemption, a narrative reminding all that even those who fall can rise again, grounded not by the weight of their misdeeds, but lifted by the strength of their repentance. Story 9. In the bustling heart of ancient Athens, there lived a painter named Euphrana, whose skill with the brush was unrivaled in all of Greece. Known for his ability to capture the very essence of his subjects, Euphrana's portraits were said to reveal the soul, making visible the invisible truths hidden within each individual. His fame grew, whispers of his talent, reaching the far corners of the world, even ascending the lofty heights of Mount Olympus itself. One day, as Euphrana was preparing his palette, a radiant figure appeared in his studio. It was none other than Athena, goddess of wisdom and the arts, adorned in her gleaming armor. "Euphrana," she addressed him with a voice both stern and beautiful, "the gods of Olympus have heard of your remarkable ability. We wish to extend an invitation to you, a mortal, to come to Mount Olympus and paint portraits of us, that we might see how we are perceived through human eyes." Euphrana was struck with awe and trepidation, but the honor was too great to decline. Accompanied by Athena, he ascended to Olympus, where the air shimmered with divine light, and the landscape bore colors no earthly pigment could replicate. There he was to create his masterpieces, each reflecting the divine nature and mythos of the gods themselves. His first subject was Zeus, the king of the gods. Euphrana, observing Zeus not just as a mighty deity but as a figure of authority and responsibility, painted him with a storm gathering in his eyes and a serene calmness about his stance, capturing both his power as the god of thunder and his role as a leader among both gods and men. The portrait revealed a complexity to Zeus, a balance of might and mercy, often overlooked by those who feared his thunderbolts. Next he painted Hera, the queen of the gods. Instead of merely portraying her regality, Euphrana chose to capture the nuances of her expression, reflecting her undying commitment to marriage and her quiet resilience in the face of the many trials she endured. The portrait depicted Hera with a peacock at her side, its eyes shimmering like stars, symbolizing her watchful nature and the beauty she brought to her often tumultuous divine relationships. Aphrodite was rendered next, and here Euphrana took great care to transcend the typical portrayals of her beauty. He painted her at the seashore, the breeze in her hair, and around her feet the waves seemed to blush. The portrait captured her essence as the goddess of love, but also hinted at the bittersweet nature of her domain, where love often mingled with longing and sorrow. For Ares, the god of war, Euphrana depicted a battlefield, not in the throes of conflict but in its quiet aftermath. Ares stood gazing down upon the land with a reflective, almost mournful look, suggesting that even the god of war bore the weight of the consequences his domain inflicted upon the world. As Euphrana continued his work, painting each god and goddess, his art became a mirror reflecting not just the divine attributes but also the personal struggles and stories of the gods. His studio on Olympus became a place of revelation, where gods often found themselves confronted with aspects of their nature they had ignored or forgotten. Upon completing his final portrait, that of Hermes depicted cleverly with multiple shadows, each hinting at his various roles as a messenger, trickster, and guide of souls, Euphrana's work was celebrated in a grand exhibition attended by gods and invited mortals alike. The portraits were lauded not only for their artistic brilliance but for the insights they offered into the divine psyche. As a reward for his service and skill, Athena bestowed upon Euphrana a vial of ichor, the golden fluid of immortality that flowed through the veins of gods. This is not for you to drink, Euphrana, but to use in your paints. Let your art be as eternal as the subjects you have captured so faithfully. With this divine gift, Euphrana returned to Athens, where his portraits imbued with both the essence of the divine and the immortality of ichor-inspired generations. His work served as a bridge between the mortal and the divine, providing a profound understanding of the gods who ruled from Olympus, viewed through the discerning eyes of a mortal who had seen beyond their power to the truths within. Story 10. In the shadowy recesses of Hephaestus' forge, nestled within the fiery heart of Mount Etna, toiled a young apprentice named Thalia. She was an unusual presence in the domain of the god of fire and craftsmanship, not merely because she was a mortal among divinities, but because she possessed an innate talent for invention that rivaled that of Hephaestus himself. Thalia, orphaned at a young age and taken in by the god due to her evident potential and enthusiasm for craftsmanship, learned the arts of metalwork and engineering under his vigilant, albeit often stern, gaze. One day, as Thalia organized the cluttered expanse of the celestial workshop, her eyes caught a glint of something buried beneath a pile of discarded metal pieces and ancient schematics. Curious, she dug through the debris and uncovered a small, unassuming box made of orichalcum, a rare celestial metal that shimmered with an inner light. The box was adorned with intricate engravings that depicted the Cyclops, the original craftsman of the gods' weapons, suggesting its contents held significant value. Unable to resist her curiosity, Thalia opened the box. Inside, she found a crystalline artifact pulsing with a radiant energy. As soon as her fingers brushed against the crystal, visions of inventions, machines, and devices far beyond the current understanding of mortal and immortal craftsmen alike flooded her mind. The artifact, she realized, was a repository of divine knowledge, containing designs and inspirations planted by Athena herself, meant to advance the craft of invention through the ages. Armed with this newfound power, Thalia began to experiment. She first created a loom that wove cloth by itself, its threads finer and more durable than any spun by human hands. Next, she fashioned a set of automata workers that could assist in the laborious tasks of the forge, enhancing productivity, but also reducing the risk of injury among her fellow apprentices. Each invention was more revolutionary than the last, and soon the news of her miraculous creations reached the ears of Hephaestus. Impressed yet cautious, Hephaestus warned Thalia of the artifact's potential to upset the balance between the divine and the mortal worlds. With great power, he counseled, comes great responsibility, and often great peril. You must choose wisely how you use this gift. As Thalia's prowess grew, so did her reputation, and with it the temptation to use her abilities for personal gain. Merchants and warriors sought her out, offering riches and fame in exchange for weapons and machines of war that could change the tides of human conflicts. Thalia found herself at a crossroads, her moral compass challenged by the lure of wealth and power. Reflecting upon Hephaestus' words, and recalling the suffering wrought by unchecked ambition she had witnessed among mortals, Thalia made a decision. She chose to dedicate her skills to the betterment of mankind, rather than its destruction. Turning away the merchants and warriors, she focused on inventions that would improve the quality of life, agricultural tools that made farming easier and more productive, water systems that helped sustain cities during drought, and medical instruments that aided healers in their care of the sick. However, the gods are often envious of their secrets, and it was not long before Athena herself appeared in the forge, aware of the mortal who wielded the knowledge meant for the gods. Athena, however, recognized Thalia's wisdom and integrity in handling the artifact. Instead of punishing her, Athena proposed a partnership. Thalia would continue her work under the goddess's patronage, ensuring that her inventions would benefit humanity in a controlled manner, guided by the wisdom of Athena to prevent misuse. Grateful and honored, Thalia accepted, and under Athena's guidance, she not only continued to innovate but also taught others, spreading her knowledge and ethical approach across Greece. Her legacy became not one of personal glory or dominance in battle, but of progress and improvement for the welfare of all. Thus, Thalia's story in the Forge of Hephaestus became a legend of its own, a tale about the power of human ingenuity when guided by wisdom and moral integrity, a reminder that the true measure of greatness lies not in the power one holds, but in how one chooses to use it for the greater good.